What a married man fears when he wants you, Carl Jung. He looks at you in a different way. The conversation flows, time stops, and something unsaid hangs in the air. You feel it, but he never mentions the ring on his finger. Jung said that the unconscious reveals what the mouth shuts, and when a married man approaches you, there is a primal fear that haunts him in every word, in every controlled gesture. It's not fear of you. It's fear of what you represent, the possibility of destroying everything he's built, or the chance to finally feel alive again. But what really terrifies him is not losing his wife, his home, or his reputation. The real dread is much deeper and darker. It is the fear of facing his own shadow, that part of him that desires the forbidden, that longs for freedom, that knows that it has chosen security over passion. And you, without knowing it, have become the mirror that reflects everything he has buried. What does he fear when he desires you? The answer goes beyond the obvious. 1. The fear of being discovered and losing everything. The first thing that consumes a married man when he desires you is the terror of being exposed. It's not just about the wife discovering a message or a poorly told lie. It's about the complete collapse of an entire life built with care. He knows that a single piece of evidence, a small slip, can make everything collapse like a house of cards. The house, the children, the financial stability, the respect of the family, the image you have built over the years. All of this is at stake every time he comes to you. This fear does not live only in his head. It's in the body, in the constant tension, in the startle when the phone rings, in the obsessive care when deleting conversations. He calculates every move as if he were defusing a bomb. Where you meet, what time he can talk to you, who can see you together. Paranoia becomes second nature. And the more he wants you, the riskier everything becomes, because desire makes him let his guard down just when he should be most alert. What really terrifies him is knowing that he has no control over all the variables. Someone can see you unintentionally. A friend of the wife may cross paths with you on the street. A restaurant bill may appear on the wrong card. He lives in a state of perpetual alert, always one step behind impending disaster. And that tension consumes him inside, because he knows that no matter how careful he is, there's always a loophole, there's always a detail that can slip through. But there is something even deeper in this fear. It's not just about the practical consequences. It's about facing the judgment, the disappointment in the eyes of the people who admired him, the label of a traitor that will never come out. It's about losing not only what he has, but who he believed himself to be. And you, without realizing it, represent both the promise of something new and the threat of total destruction. Every moment with you is an unstable balance between pleasure and panic, between desire and desperation to keep everything hidden. The terror of facing your own hypocrisy. There is a kind of fear that does not come from outside, but from within. It's the dread of looking in the mirror and recognizing that you've become exactly what you've always condemned. This man has probably judged others who have done the same. Maybe he criticized friends, colleagues, movie characters. He may have even comforted his wife when she found out about other people's betrayals, telling him that he would never do something like that. And now he is doing it. This contradiction corrodes from within in a silent and brutal way. The human mind hates incoherence. When we act against our own values, something inside us breaks. He built an image of himself as a man of integrity, reliable, someone of his word. This image is not just for others. It is for himself. It's what makes him sleep at night, what sustains his sense of self. But now that foundation is cracking, and he feels it. Every time he looks for you, every lie he tells, every time he looks at his wife knowing what he is hiding, the crack gets bigger. The worst thing is that he can't stop. The desire for you is stronger than the need to maintain internal coherence. And this frightens him deeply because it reveals something about him that he would rather not know. That his principles were more fragile than he imagined, that his convictions had limits, that he is capable of betraying not only another person, but himself. This discovery is devastating for anyone who prided himself on having strong character. And there's more. He begins to question everything. If he is cheating now, what else is a lie in his life? How many other things did he do for convenience rather than conviction? Does he really love his wife, or has he just gotten used to security? Was he ever the man he thought he was? These questions don't have easy answers, and he knows it. So he prefers not to think, not to stare, not to dive too deep. But the fear is there, whispering that he is not who he said he was. If you want to understand what a married man fears when he wants you, it's not guilt, it's an unconscious conflict, explained by Carl Jung. Jungmethod, pinned in the first comment. 3. The dread that you see who he really is. At first he shows himself in the best possible way. Charming, attentive, interesting. It makes you laugh, it listens carefully. It seems to understand you in a way that no one else does. But behind this carefully constructed mask, there is a deep terror. The fear that you will eventually see beyond the facade and discover your real weaknesses. He knows he's selling an edited version of himself, and he's terrified of the day when the editing fails. Everyone has parts of themselves that they prefer to hide. Insecurities, failures, childish fears, shameful behaviors. But when a married man gets involved with someone else, this need to hide multiplies. He can't show true vulnerability because that would break the fantasy. You see him as someone strong enough to risk everything, decisive, passionate. If you discover that he is indecisive, fearful, that he often thinks about giving up everything and returning to his comfort zone, the image collapses. He's afraid that you'll realize he's not as special as he seems, that at home it is common, predictable, sometimes even annoying, that his wife knows all his flaws and is no longer impressed, that he stopped making an effort years ago, who has gained weight, who complains too much, who watches television every night without saying anything interesting. With you, he may pretend to be the best version of himself, but he knows that this is unsustainable. And when you start to see the cracks, when you realize that he's not the extraordinary man that he presented, what's going to happen? There is also the fear that you will find out that he will not leave his wife. That all the innuendo, the implicit promises, the talk about how empty the marriage is, all of this may just be a convenient narrative. He is terrified that you will confront him, force him to make a real decision, because then he will no longer have a way to hide behind beautiful words. You'll see that he's just an ordinary, scared man, caught between two worlds, with no real courage to choose either completely. 4. The fear of not being man enough for two realities. Maintaining a double life is exhausting in ways that those who have never lived it cannot imagine. It's not just about hiding, it's about constantly performing on two different stages, with two demanding audiences, without ever being able to rest or just be yourself. And deep down, he knows he can't sustain it forever. The fear of not being enough for both situations eats away at him every day. At home, he needs to be the present husband, the responsible father, the one who pays the bills and solves problems. With you, it needs to be the passionate, interesting man who brings novelty and intensity. They are completely different roles, and both demand energy, attention, emotional presence. But he only has one body, one mind, one daily energy limit. And this limit is constantly being exceeded. He sleeps badly because he thinks too much. He eats badly because he is always in a hurry. He gets angry easily because he is on the edge. Guilt also drains energy. Every time he hugs his wife, every time he plays with his children, a part of him feels the weight of betrayal. And every time he's with you, a part of him thinks about the family he's neglecting. It is never whole anywhere. He is always divided, always partially present, always with his mind wandering to the other side of his life. And this makes him feel inadequate in both places. There is also sexual fear. Maintaining desire and performance with two women is not simple. The body responds to stress, guilt, age. He dreads the day when he can't correspond with you because it exposes a vulnerability that destroys the fantasy. At the same time, if the frequency at home decreases, the wife may be suspicious. He lives in this impossible balance, trying to satisfy two people when he can barely satisfy himself. And deep down, there is the greatest fear of all in this aspect, discovering that he is not exceptional enough to justify all this, that it is not so strong, so capable, so special as to be able to make it work, that it's just an ordinary man trying to live an extraordinary situation and failing miserably. This acknowledgement of one's own mediocrity is perhaps the hardest blow to the male ego. 5. The fear that you demand more than he can give. At first, everything seems easy. Messages when possible, speed dates, stolen moments that seem enough because they are intense and full of adrenaline. But he knows that this does not last. Over time, you'll want more. It's natural. You're going to want to be seen, recognized, prioritized. You will want holidays together, presentation to friends, concrete future plans. And he is terrified of this moment because he knows that he cannot give these things without destroying the life he already has. This fear is present from day one, even when everything seems light and without commitment. He watches for signs that you're getting more attached, that your expectations are growing. Every time you ask when you'll see each other again, every time you question why he can't stay longer, every hint that you want evolution in the relationship sets off a red alarm inside him. Because he knows where this is going, and he knows that he has no way to meet it. The hard truth is that he has a fixed amount of time, money, energy, and emotional presence, and most of that is already committed to the life you've built before you. He can give you crumbs, stolen moments, divided attention, but it can't give you what you deserve, a whole man available, a real gift. And when you realize this and start charging, what will he do? Lie more, promising things you can't keep, or finally admit that you've always been the secondary option. There is also the fear that you will give an ultimatum, that one day you simply say that you can't stand living in the shadows anymore, that you want to be a priority or nothing. He dreads that day because he knows he'll have to make a real choice, not just stall with nice words and vague promises, and choosing means losing. If he stays with you, he loses his family. If you choose family, you lose. There is no way out without pain, without loss, without serious consequences, and deep down he knows he's being unfair. He is occupying his time, his emotional energy, his expectations for the future with something that he knows has an expiration date. But desire is selfish, and as long as you accept the crumbs, it will keep giving you just that. The fear that you'll wake up and demand more doesn't make you change your behavior. It just makes you appreciate more the days when you are even less accepting. 6. The fear of losing emotional control. Men are taught from an early age to control emotions, not to show weakness, not to be carried away by intense feelings, to always keep a cool and rational head. But when you show up in his life, all that carefully constructed control starts to crack. And that terrifies him because it means he's vulnerable in a way that he wasn't prepared to handle. The problem with intense feelings is that they don't obey logic. He may know rationally that he should stop, that it will end badly, that every day that passes makes everything more complicated. But he can't. He thinks about you all the time. He misses it when you don't speak to each other. He is euphoric with a message from you. And this loss of control over one's feelings is terrifying for someone who has always prided himself on being rational and balanced. There is also the fear of falling in love for real, because then the situation completely changes its nature. While it's just desire, physical attraction, an exciting adventure, he manages to justify and keep things in separate boxes. But if it's real, deep love, the one that changes the way you see the world, he knows there's no going back. True love requires radical decisions, and he doesn't know if he's ready to make those choices, to face the devastating consequences that will come. He is afraid to start comparing, to realize that with you, he feels things that he hasn't felt at home for years, that the conversations are deeper, the laughter more genuine, the connection more real. Because if you start comparing honestly, you'll have to admit painful truths about his marriage. You're going to have to recognize that you've been living a half-life for a long time, that you've settled down, that maybe you should never have married or should have ended years ago. And there is the fear of intense jealousy, of you with other men, of imagining that you might be pulling away, of thinking that you might lose you. This jealousy is irrational, considering that it can't offer you a complete relationship, but feelings don't follow logic. And when he finds himself consumed by jealousy, by possessiveness, by the need to know where you are and with whom, he realizes that he has completely lost control, that you have power over him in a way that no one else does. And that's both exciting and downright terrifying. 7. The fear that his wife will be better off without him. This is one of the most secret and rarely admitted fears. There is a possibility that haunts him in the silent dawns. What if, in the end, his wife finds out everything and realizes that she is better off alone, that you don't need it, that all the emotional and practical dependence he imagined she had was actually much less than he thought? This thought is devastating to the male ego in deep, primitive ways. He has always assumed to be essential, the provider, the protector, the one without whom the family falls apart. But what if it isn't? What if she discovers that she can pay the bills on her own, that her children adapt, that she even flourishes in his absence, that you finally have time for yourself, for your projects, for your life, that the absence of the constant tension of a dead marriage actually sets her free? This fear attacks the very basis of masculine identity built around being necessary. There is something even worse. What if she finds someone better, someone more present, more attentive, more passionate, someone who values her the way he stopped valuing her years ago? The idea that she can be happy with another man, perhaps even happier than she has ever been with him, is a wound in pride that never heals. He wants the freedom to have you, but he doesn't want her to have the same freedom. The hypocrisy is blatant, but the fear is real. There is also the terror of realizing too late that you have given up on the wrong person, that while he was obsessed with you, with this intense and exciting novelty, he let slip a woman who really knew him, accepted him, built a whole life alongside him. That the grass wasn't greener on the other side, it was just different. And by the time you finally realize this, it may be too late. She may have moved on, rebuilt her life, closed the door at once. And there's the deepest fear of all in this regard, to discover that he's always been more dependent on her than she has on him. Who needs that structure, that routine, that silent care that she always gave, and he never valued? That alone, or only with you, he is actually lost, aimless, realizing too late that he destroyed the foundation that supported him. And when this panic hits, he usually runs home, at least temporarily, until the desire for you speaks louder again. Adisikuf Damsu 8. The ultimate dread, discovering that you never really loved anyone. This is the most existential and disturbing fear of all. In the deepest silence of his conscience, he wonders, what if everything has always been a lie? What if he never really loved his wife, never really loved you? And deep down, he's just running away from an inner emptiness that no one person can fill. What if all of this, the marriage, the affair, the intense feelings, is just an elaborate distraction to keep from facing that he doesn't know how to love anyone but himself? This doubt is corrosive, because if it's true, it means that he wasted years of someone else's life on a lie. That is wasting your time right now. Who is fundamentally incapable of genuine and deep connection with another human being, who has always been, deep down, an empty man using people to fill a hole that cannot be filled from the outside. And worse, that you can keep repeating this pattern forever, jumping from person to person, always thinking that the next one will be different, will be real, will finally make you feel truly alive. He observes his own life as if he were on the outside. He sees the choices he has made, the patterns he repeats, the ease with which he can compartmentalize feelings. He loves his wife on one level, desires you on another, and both coexist without cancelling each other out. This should be impossible if love were absolute, overwhelming, true, but for him it's natural, almost too easy. And this ease scares him because it suggests an emotional superficiality that he never wanted to admit. There is also the fear that he is using the concept of love to justify pure selfishness, that when he says he loves you, he's really just saying he likes how you make him feel, that it's not about you, it's about him. About the inflated ego, the feeling of being desired again, the validation of still being able to conquer. And if it turns out that's the case, what's left? A narcissistic man manipulating two women to feed his own ego, while convincing himself that he is some kind of tortured romantic torn between two loves. The ultimate dread is dying without ever having truly loved. To reach the end of his life and realize that he has always been a spectator of his own existence, never fully present, never fully surrendered, always calculating, always protected behind emotional walls. That he had opportunities, had people willing to give themselves completely to him, but he never managed to reciprocate with the same intensity. And when you finally understand this, when clarity comes, it may be too late to change. This is the silent tragedy of the man who has never learned to love beyond himself, and the fear of that recognition haunts him in every choice he makes.